So I want to talk about a few things that I think is important, worth me talking about. This is about the cell phone tapping. Aside from all the electronic devices that are violently physically shooting me and controlling me and just pestering me, that's all it is to make me miserable, try to drive me crazy, look crazy, so that nobody wants to help me with any legal matters or any laws and violations of human rights that they're doing to me. Now, I have bought probably over the last 10 years, probably over easily like 30 different fucking phones. Easily over 30 phones. And repeatedly purchasing all different kinds. I've never really bought too many of the cheap fucking phones that they had phone tapping. Like they call them what's it, flip phones, or not just flip phones. They're phones that are used, that are just basically the old school phones that people can use, that you can buy at Walmart, you can buy at many different stores. They're like card cell phones. Well, anyway, I've gone through so many different types of phones, and I've actually called forensic analysis before, at least probably 7 or 8 different times. In my beginning of my 30s, because I didn't know who was tapping my phone, and every time I would call somebody, I noticed that the person seemed to knew who I was. When you call a company, anytime you call any company, whether it's a grocery store, forensic analysis, any office, a hotel, a company, those people should never know who I am or have any type of mental intention toward me in any kind of way. Meaning, it sounds like they know who I am. They get very defensive. They're not very helping because they don't know who I am. They have no idea. They should know, but that's not what's happening. They're basically blocking me off from any assistance from anyone or from whatever services or companies, because they know that they're targeting me because it's the gays and transgenders that are doing this. Now, one thing that I've never done in all this going to Washington, D.C. and trying to contact lawyers and going to the cell phone, they have a cell phone network companies where where they deal with the antennas, or they deal with all sorts of different, I can't remember what they're called, but they're the receptive towers that deal with all the cell phone usage. And I went there, I was writing letters to the president, but one thing I haven't done is gone to seminars that they have for cell phone companies. The cell phones, there's seminars of forensic analysis where they have all these forensic analysis people that do this for a living. They check people's cell phones. There's a lot of lawyers out there that go out there and get forensic analysis from people that do that type of work to prove it in court for murders, for rapes, for all kinds of horrible things. Now, I've had a murder attempt placed on me, and the first thing that they did is they knew where I was because of my cell phone. And they started saying things about, during the murder attempt, placing a knife up to my throat. They were acknowledging they knew who I was. That someone basically, they didn't say flat out that somebody had sent them to come get me, go after me. Now, I say this that I think it's important because one thing that I may do once I leave this apartment is start going throughout the United States, anywhere that has forensic analysis seminars, cell phones, specifically cell phones, and computers, but cell phones. Figure out what the rights are, how is it that somebody's violating all my rights. I even read something up that police officers have the ability to tap people's phones illegally, and you'll never find out that it's them that actually do it until you have a lot of money. And this is how a lot of court cases end up having, because the corrupted police department has all those machines and all these devices to be able to tell whether they need to tap somebody's phone because of a horrible crime or a murder or something that's going on. but they also break the law and they tap people's phone unwillingly. And I've heard of cases like this before. I'll talk about a case that I remember happened to a friend of a friend. I really didn't know a guy, but met him a couple of times. And I'll talk about this later. But there was, so I'm going to go there. I've called several forensic analysis, and I think it was at least $2,000. And I could tell by the tone of the guy, the voice, and several times that I spoke to, that they knew who I was. And they knew who I was, they knew exactly what's going on, and they had negative intentions. They were blocking me off to make sure I don't get help at all. I don't get any knowledge to protect my rights, none whatsoever. And they know that the police department is in on this because they're all homosexuals and transgenders here, especially anywhere. I mean, 90% of all police officers are nothing but gays. And so when you start talking about a bunch of faggots and gays and not liking them because they're all uniting against me, then they have a reason to hate me and do awful things to me and not assist me in any kind of way. And they're the only law enforcement that exists in this life. So other than anyone that's willing to put handcuffs and throw you in a cage, they're the only people that can do that legally. But they abuse that, as everyone knows. But one thing that I recall is I remember calling a few cell phone companies and I could mail in my phone to them, but I can't trust any of that because everything that they're doing around me is to let me know that I have no hope and I can't reach out to any type of legal law enforcement or any type of legal lawyer that of any kind, a forensic analysis digital phone person or an attorney, because they don't want any rights that I have. They want to take away all my human rights away. But what they do is they'll steal my package, right? And then the guy in here that came into the apartment complex, his maintenance, they start playing all these crazy psychological, and they're letting me know that they can steal anything that they want, including the mail at the USPS Postal Service. So I can't mail my phone into a package because the second I do that, what they'll do is they'll steal the phone out of the package and then they'll charge me and steal my money. And they'll charge me I think I called one place and it was $700 for them, and it takes a month for them to be able to go through your phone. It was $700. That was one place I found in New Jersey or some crazy shit. It was somewhere near New York or upstate, east upstate. I think Rhode Island or some shit like that. And they were gonna charge me $600 or $700, and this is in my early 30s. I've called a few other places. They were telling me, and every other place I called was going to charge me $2,000 for them to be able to go through my phone and then lie to me that they can't find. You don't understand how many people are against me. There are, all throughout the United States, I have caused so much attention online, Facebook, Instagram, everything I can possibly get. I've gone to law agents, police officer stations, police stations don't want to help me. They act very haggling, threatening, and they do anything they can to eventually come at me and have the people come at me. And that's why they want to do it, because their plan is to have a string of criminal activity of people do this to me, hoping that something ends up occurring where they can throw me in prison for the rest of my life or for a very long time. But it's to use the public against me, and that's why they don't want to do anything or help me in any kind of way. So, like I said, they know about the murder attempt that was placed on me, 100%. I talked about this when a police officer was smirking at me when the murder attempt happened to me. When I was 31, placed a knife to my throat, and I was stomped and kicked all over my face and ribs, had fractured ribs. I had blood all over my shirt and bruises all over my face and head. They knew about that. Even after 3 years later, when I made that report, the police officer that gave me basically a report piece of paper made something up and approached me and was smirking about the situation. He was smirking about I can do whatever the fuck I want and send another murder attempt. It's not me. I remember I'm law enforcement. And that's how he was behaving and even like talking to me, like just taunting me about the situation. And wasn't there very long at the cemetery in Garland, just about half a mile from where my mother's identical twin was posing as my mother at Lucio's house. But I wanted to say, I have gone throughout the United States. I'm going to try and go and find these seminars online, but I know that I have to go in person. I have to go in person to take my phone physically in person to have any kind of hope. And when I get there, I'll be able to immediately know whether these people want to help me or not, or they're going to lie to me. But one thing is for sure, if they were to charge me $1,000 or $600 or $2,000, they can easily, like so many circumstances, steal my money and tell me they didn't find anything. And I know that will be a lie. You will not believe me when I tell you it is these people that are tapping my phone are blatantly doing it intentionally on my phone, making the screen flash off and on, turning the phone off and on, draining the life of the battery, doing all kinds of crazy things to let me know that they can control my phone and not get caught and do whatever the fuck it is that they want. They're blatantly doing it. This phone that I'm recording with, that I'm going to be placing on YouTube, this video on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram, they do it blatantly. That's how confident they feel. They're not just secretively doing it. No, they're blatantly doing it. They freeze the fucking phone. They do certain types of things to the phones where I take a picture and it says processing. I take a picture and it says processing phone photo, and it takes literally like 4 or 5 seconds. And they'll slow the processor whenever I take a photo. And this is what they're doing. They do these crazy shit. I know a little bit about phones to know how they work, that they're doing this. There's all kinds of crazy things, making the screen flash. I'll be playing video games, and when I'm playing matchmakers, and they'll freeze the screen immediately when I'm playing the video game. And they do this. There's nothing on my phone. I'll delete everything. I rebooted my phone several times. It doesn't matter. But I'm going to be going to several places. Hopefully I can find some place. I know 100% I cannot travel anywhere without people following me and stalking me, and they already know my intentions. Right now is probably the first time that I've lived in this apartment that I'm looking up forensic analysis lawyers and forensic analysis people that you could take your phone to and give you a quote how much that is for evidence to then show that somebody's tapping my phone. But you don't understand that the gay community and transgenders are all involved in on this. So they'll contact them and they'll tell them, sabotage him. Don't help him. They're not going to want to help me. And they're going to ask me, well, who is it that's tapping your phone? If I immediately start saying, oh, it's the bunch of faggots and gays and transgenders that are doing this because that's all that's being placed around me, and the guy's fucking gay, what do you think he's going to want to do? And I don't know anything about the laws. I'm just going to give this guy $2,000 to give my fucking money so that I can find out how the fuck, what the fuck's going on. Why are my rights and my privacy, all of my phone being taken away and toyed with? My computer, my phone, everything. But I think it's important for me to talk about because I don't have really any else place to go to, and I don't have anything else, but it's worth a try. It's worth a try for me to travel throughout the United States, go in person to these offices if they exist somewhere, and have them lie to me and fool me. But at least put it on videotape that I'm flying to these places, take pictures of the store outside the parking lot, and any footage that I can, recording devices, that I'm trying to reach out to someone that can analyze my phone to prove I know that 100% my phone, this is not a delusional. You don't understand how intense, blatantly these people are doing. It's not just like a computer, they're handling my phone. Every phone call I'm making, Amazon, PayPal, eBay, it's being rerouted to the same fucking person. I can't call 911 you know, I mean, it's so blatantly, and the streaks over the phone is crazy. But I'm going to make this a part 2 of this video about this forensic analysis.